What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. We got a really cool episode. I got a guy here, a GoBundance member that we're going to relate to a lot on leaving not only a career, but an executive career. And we're going to dive deep on that. So Chad Kirkpatrick is an accredited investor who 10x'd his net worth from 2011 to 2021. He started investing in property in 2011 and currently is the sole owner of over 8 million in real estate and other investments. He owns multiple properties in the Phoenix Scottsdale area, great spot, plus a beach house in Florida. He's also a limited partner in 126 stores in Florida. His Arizona portfolio includes long-term multifamily rentals and single-family homes used as short-term rentals. Mr. Kirkpatrick has achieved level 1 financial freedom through his rental income. I love that. He left his executive level 2 job on February 17, 2022. I love that even more, to focus on leading a fuller and more balanced life. And we're going to talk about Vanilla Ice and Robert Kiyosaki and a bunch of other interesting things. So strap in. Let's get going. Chad, welcome, brother. Good to see you.
All right. Thanks, Jamie. This is awesome. I appreciate the intro.
Absolutely. Let's go back a little bit. So how did you go from now you're, over the last 10 years, you're building a portfolio, you leave your W-2, but you were a W-2 guy for a while. So take us back. Where are you from? Scottsdale? Give us kind of the story up to the point at which you made your exit.
Yeah. I'm actually grew up in Dallas, Texas, through a family of entrepreneurs. My parents were divorced. So I had both a stepfather and a father who were very much entrepreneurs. But despite that, I was told I had to have a W-2 job and go to college and get a degree. So I started down that path. Oddly enough, in government, I wanted to go work in federal government. So I went to school in Washington, D.C. My very first job out of school was working in the United States Senate and then into the Treasury, U.S. Treasury Department for a while. One of the things I learned from that was you had 22-year-olds and 24-year-olds. They're the people that actually write the bills, them and the lobbyists. So it kind of let me say, I don't know if we want to give too much power to these guys, since it's guys like me that are kind of doing major legislation. My wife and I decided we want to make a change from the Washington, D.C. area. And we just picked a spot, Phoenix, Arizona. We established some criteria. One was no winters. Phoenix and Austin, Texas were the two things. A good cost of living, affordable homes, which we weren't getting in DC. Better job prospects. I mean, if you, for those in DC and probably New York City, you got cabbies with MBAs, and we certainly wanted to kind of leverage our skills, and we want to get out of politics. So I say we got 3 of the 4 done. Moving to Arizona kind of in the late 90s was really the best thing that ever happened to us. I would say within 10 years, I was actually appointed to the governor's cabinet. Before that, I had been a vice president for Wells Fargo in technology, moved to the governor's cabinet. And that's kind of really, in a way, led me to kind of set me off in my journey. So I was very excited being the chief information officer. So I ran IT for a state, 25,000 employees in the state. And in a lot of respects, it was my dream job. But what you learn in politically appointed positions is that you can be unappointed just as quickly as you get appointed. So in 2011, I found myself without a job. Wow. So I actually had a brief stint kind of running my own consulting business. Actually did fantastic. I was actually tripled my income 2 years later. And I had all this cash coming in. And really what I started doing was just buying real estate. This was, again, 2011, 2012, when this was really happening. And it kind of came about because, through my networking for my consulting business, I kept meeting these people. Oh, you should buy these multifamilies because they're like 20,000 a door and you can't go wrong. I'm like, okay, why not? That's literally my decision point. The second decision point was a major client, and he was a friend of mine when I worked there. He was in another agency, so he was going to become a client of mine. His wife was a real estate agent. So I go, hey, I'll have my client's wife be my real estate agent. And there's a great way in. They had owned 15 rentals at the time, and she had been buying. So I guess I got to learn somehow, right? I didn't. Was there bigger pockets in 2012? I'm not sure what education there was, but I didn't know to look for it for sure.
Right.
So it was a side hustle, the real estate side, and I just kind of stuck with that W-2. And my mindset was always, I got to have a title. I got to have an income. I can't have an income unless I'm working for somebody else. All this rental income, when I'm 59 and a half, I'll be able to retire. Maybe I'll cheat at age 57. And probably about 2 years ago, I kind of looked at my portfolio. I go, like, what the hell? Like, why am I waiting? I'm 59.
Right.
Like, if I just do three things in the next 2 years, I'm good. And I can just go to that next step. And so I kind of got there, I got there about a year ago. So I actually spent the last 2 years kind of writing down a plan, really focusing on the life vision,
Hmm.
on what's the lifestyle that my wife and I we want to lead in the next 3 years, 3 years from now, or 2.5 years from now, really, but 3 years from that time, and really just started executing on that plan. And I kind of stretched the job out as long as I could, but when you mentally check out because you're going to
Done.
leave,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just hard to stay. I stayed for 6 months more than I was intending to. I'm kind of glad I did because was a lot of income, which I don't have now, but it allowed me to kind of finish some things. And when it was time to go, like I just separated and it was done. There was no quitter's remorse for sure.
Was there any notice in advance besides like 2 weeks or whatever, like the 6 months before? Did you give a signal like, hey, I'm winding down, I got a year, or was it hush hush until you actually made the decision?
No, I gave him 3.5 weeks notice because
Yeah.
I had a lot of
I give a month.
high,
Yep.
yeah, a lot of high value projects that I wanted to make sure got transitioned, but
Yeah.
yeah, for
Isn't it
sure.
funny? You left with gratitude. That was my thing. Like if I left when I wanted to leave in my story, the arc of my story, I would have been with just fire and like the hell with this, I'm out of here. But when I left, it was like, how can I best set up whatever's next after me? How can I help them transition? So I offered a month more if you need it. Like I wasn't in a rush per se. I wasn't gonna, go
Mhm.
forever, but I like what you said. That's the way to go. You built something to run toward. So it wasn't that you were running away from a job at this point. You just had something else. Thank you for all that you've given me, but I got to go do this now. So I love
Yeah.
that. Talk to me about lifestyle freedom. You said you put a plan together. This is near and dear to my heart because for me, like financial freedom, yes, we're all pursuing or have gotten or whatever the case may be, that milestone. But man, you have kids?
Yes, I have kids.
How old are they?
Two. Well, too, and that's the other thing that I'm kind of blessed with. I'm blessed because they're out of the house, so we're empty nesters. So,
Well, but that was my
and
thing on the other end. Like I started a little later compared to
yeah,
most. Like I'm 43, I have a 7 and a 4-year-old. But for me, lifestyle freedom became like urgent. Like, hey, I can,
mhm,
even if I do some work and make some money, but I have my passive investments or whatever, I'm cool with that if I get to do the life I want to do. So I know what
right.
that is for me. But what is that for you? What is it? You and your wife crafted this plan. What is that? What does lifestyle freedom look like for you?
So we put together a vision statement. When I say we, it's like probably 95% me, but
I
you
got to ask
know,
you about that in a second too. Go for it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think we're in the same direction on that one. But for me, I kept coming back to this concept of a gentleman of leisure. So I said, I don't want to work more than 30 hours a week
Mm,
total. So every line of business cannot be more than 30 hours. And so that I have the time for my personal pursuits, whether it's fitness, whether it's my relationships, my marriage, my kids, after spending 60, 70 hours, especially when you're traveling a lot, there's a lot,
yeah.
I think, to make up with your kids. And frankly, your friends they were friends and then you're never around because you're busy doing other things. So it really just came to, this mission statement of just no more than 30 hours a week. I wanted my income to be double my W-2 income,
Mm,
which was pretty close to where my total income was. If you added up my quote unquote passive income or the side hustle income with my W-2, try and get there within 3 years, and
mm,
where I'm working no more than 30 hours. And part of that though was because I'm over 50, right? So kids are out of the house. A little bit of a different spot where I think you see in the Go Pods like, well, I want to have $100 million and I want to do this. And certainly, if I were 30 years old, that's what I would be thinking.
sure.
But I'm kind of like lights at the end of the tunnel. I can live off 300-400 grand a year pretty darn well, and I'm pretty close to that. So when I get there, do I want to go to that next level? I mean, I don't know. I mean, talk to me on a Monday, yes. Talk to me on a Tuesday, no. I mean, I just, but when I get there, I'll
Yeah.
make that decision, right? I have a goal, 3 years, or I guess 2.5 years from now, this is where I'm going to be, and then I'll figure out the next step.
How do you separate 30 hours? Do you allocate a certain amount per business or give us an idea of like how many things do you consider within that 30 hours? Is it your real estate portfolio? Is it property? Like, what are the things that you're allocating time to? And then how do you allocate that time to make sure you stay under 30?
So, well, I won't say I'm the best at tracking it. And to be fair, I haven't quite accomplished that just because I'm trying to get to that point where the
Yeah.
income is where it needs to be,
No, but
right?
it's
So if I've worked,
aspirational and you're designing it just like you designed quitting your job at some point, right? So now you're
yeah,
on the path to designing this. So I'm curious how I mean, this is good for me because I'm nowhere near 30 hours. So I would love to hear, teach me, please.
yeah. And so, well, so 30 hours is inclusive of everything that produces income, right?
Yeah.
And even if I enjoy it, like I enjoy driving around, looking at houses, I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead. I need to include that in there.
Mm,
So it is inclusive. Now, how I allocate it, or how I'm going to manage it, I think once you get to a certain level, like right now, my wife and I are talking about hiring a person, at the local university who's, they have a great construction management, property management degree. So it'd be awesome to take a senior in college and pay them whatever, $30 an hour to kind of go do all this, kind of busy work that has to get done, right? MBAs and stuff like that. So we're trying to carve out, like, what are those, I don't want to call them low value because they do need to get done, but maybe more repetitive, routine, not something that's high income producing type work that we should be doing. So I think when we get there, we're not there yet, but when we get there, that's kind of how we'll start divvying out to kind of keep that time down. The only other thing I would add to that is that 30 hours, it's got to be work that I can do remotely,
mm.
because one of our goals, we were talking 2023, but it's probably going to be 2024 because of some things that are happening next year. But we said, look, we're going to spend 3 months in Southern Europe next, and probably 2024, realistically speaking, and then we're going to get to the point where we're traveling 6 months out of the year. So whatever we do, we got to do it remotely.
That's so cool, man. That was number one for me. In fact, a guy in my pod says he designs everything by the cell phone. Like he wouldn't even need a laptop. He's at that point. And yeah, to your point, like I don't know if you saw it, but I posted it recently. We're in July 2022 as we record this, but in a month we're moving. My family and I are moving to the Dominican for a year or
Yeah.
two, right? So that became true because of that priority, like you said. But something you said in there, I really love, and you said it intentionally, and I caught it, was that 30 hours is inclusive of work that you enjoy even. I think that I opened my eyes because I think for me, where I creep is like the work is the stuff that I gotta do. Like, right. That's what I consider 30
Yeah.
or 40 hours. But there's a whole bunch of stuff I love doing that I don't look at as work, even though it's work. It's dollar productive, but I love it.
Mhm.
This is dollar productive in many ways for me, but I love doing this. So I don't look
Yeah.
at it as work, but you're potentially putting a good percentage of your 30 hours that you're allotting yourself and you're holding yourself tight to stuff you like. So it's work, but it's not work, but 30
Mhm.
hours. That's amazing. Was that a conscious decision, or was that like, how did you come up with that? I'm curious how, because that's
Yeah.
brilliant to me.
Well, thank you. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it had more to do with I've been working 60, 70 hours in the corporate world, and you enjoy it. You enjoy the people, you enjoy the projects most of the time,
Yeah.
and it's easy, you use the word, creep, right? And
Yeah.
I'm in technology. We talk about scope creep all the time. Of course, we should add a little button here. That's only 6 hours of work. And of course, you've added like 20 of those 6 hour things and you've blown everything out of the water.
Yeah.
So I think it's really, tempting to say, oh, I enjoy it, it's not really work. And which, might be true. I mean, is going out to, these $10 million houses and looking in them because you want to get design ideas for a short-term rental or design ideas for your house, or just because you're curious, is that really work? Maybe, maybe not. But these are things that I could be doing in other pursuits, right? I kind of mentioned I want to spend more time in fitness. I want to spend more time with my wife doing one-on-one things, more time kind of travel. And if I kind of let those things I enjoy doing, they're kind of work, kind of not, all that stuff kind of gets pushed aside. Next thing I know, I'm back to doing 60 hours a week of work, which I'm done. I don't want to do that.
I love it, man. I want to go back. I'm going to kind of track back to a couple of points that you brought up. One is one of enrollment, I'll call it. So, guy or gal listening to this right now heard you say, yeah, 95% of the vision was kind of me and my wife's along for the ride. how do you and how did you enroll your wife in this vision, or did you, or is she, is it her personality? Is it something that you feel you did well as far as being able to execute a vision? Unpack that for me if you wouldn't mind, because I think that's a big thing. Like, how do I get my partner involved or engaged if they're not necessarily on this alpha driven, mindset
Yeah.
that many of us are?
Well, I mean, certainly it first starts with what type of relationship do you have going into that conversation,
Sure.
right? If you're already kind of two people living, two lives, and you kind of meet in the middle, might be a little bit of a different, conversation than you truly are partners, married to one another, married to your life vision. I would say, I'm more of a planner and a visionary, and part of that might be just because of the work I've always had to do in
Yeah.
my day job. So it just kind of transferred over into this new journey in private life. Um, but I would say, when I first I read a few books on it. I kind of listened to some podcasts. There's actually a great podcast with Brandon Turner and his wife kind of
Nice.
talking about it. I can kind of tell that I think this is more Brandon's vision than his, wife's vision type of thing.
Sure.
And so I kind of got a lot of clues from that. And I even sent that video to my wife and said, hey, watch this 10-minute video. I think this will like give us ideas for what we want to talk to.
Hmm.
I took a day off work. We went out to this kind of outdoor restaurant. It was March or April, so it was tolerable in Phoenix, Arizona back then. So it was kind of a relaxing environment. I had kind of prepped her for it. I started like asking her questions and getting her feedback on it. She was a little bit reluctant still. So of course I did all the work, right? I typed it up. What do you think of this? What do you want to add? And she's like, yeah. And he'd add like a sentence, out of like 3 pages or something like that. And so I kind of switched topics. I go, so hey, I'm thinking once we accomplish this, we can travel. Where would you want to travel to? And
Yeah.
even that was a little bit of a struggle to kind of get her on board, because I mean, you tell me, go anywhere you want. I'm all over that. But again,
Yeah.
different personalities, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of that constant, conversation, and asking her like, hey, what do you envision us doing? And I also kind of think, getting back to that relationship, like she does a lot of work, and she has worked a lot, but it's always been kind of, independent
Mhm.
type work. So she's had a little flexibility in what she's done. So I've been the primary breadwinner for sure. And I think she's kind of seen my frustrations, my, 6:30 at night, and I just pass out on the couch and just say, hey, it's time. We're at a great place. It's just time that we can move forward. I trust you. She kind of said, I trust you. And and just to add a one example of that, before I had quit, I was probably about maybe two months away
Mhm.
from quitting. And I kind of had this anxiety attack, like, why am I doing this? I got this, I'm doing great at my job. I got great income. Why am I doing this? And I kind of told my wife in the morning after getting like 4 hours of sleep, like, I shouldn't quit. I just got to keep going. She goes, no, you've been talking about this for a year. You'll make it work. We'll make it work. Go do it. I'm with you on this. And I was like, okay. So there we go.
That's amazing. I think that anxiety, I felt that, I think the day before. I was a weird calm for me
Mm.
for like a month. I made the decision a month and a half, like the final. Like I I was like, you know what? I'm doing it when I get back. We were in Florida for a month. So I'm doing it when I get back from Florida. Actually, came back from Florida, went right to Tahoe for a GoBundance event. And after that, when I came back, I did it. And I remember being so like at peace with it. Just no
Mhm.
problem. Like, wow, this is weird. Like this is what's supposed to be. Then the night before, the night before, it was just like, oh God, what the hell am I about to do? Are you crazy? But
Yeah.
I got over that pretty quickly. My wife was the same. She was, what's the worst that happens here? Like really, what's the worst that happens here? And
Go back and get a job in a year.
that's it. I can get a job if I need to. That would be embarrassing, a blow to the ego. It would suck, but we'll survive. We're not going to live under a bridge. I've said that so many times. Zero is not an option for like you can make 70 grand a year and pay
Mhm.
bills. You could downgrade your house and make 70 grand. You know what I mean? Like, not to be flippant about it, but the whole idea of being broke and destitute is just not realistic with your skills and your experience and what you have to offer the marketplace. So I don't know. For people considering quitting, keep that in mind. Um,
Mhm.
it's funny on the I have to watch. It was the branded video like a YouTube thing, or do you remember where was it a podcast?
It was on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about a 10-minute video.
To look it
Yeah,
up.
yeah, it's a good quick watch for sure.
Yeah, if we find it, we'll drop it in the show notes because I love this topic. And it's funny you said about you wrote it down. My wife and I do this kind of annually. Toward the end of the year, we'll sit down, coffee shop, something like that. For me, and this sounds like you, it's a planning session, right?
Yeah.
But I'm smart enough to know not to market it that way, right? Like, let's go out and chat, dream a bit, right? Let's talk
Yeah.
about, what we're
Yeah.
going to. And then I know there's no pen, no paper in that moment. Like I'm just like trapping it. And then as soon as we're done, it's great, babe, whatever. I go back and, I'm writing it all down. So I didn't even show her. It was just like, yeah, hey, I got it. I got it. We're all good to go. So I like that.
Well, and just two things to add to that.
Yeah.
One thing I've been able to do, like she hates accounting. Frankly, I hate accounting, but I've kind of taken over a lot of that. So she's like, "Oh, well, this is pretty good. I don't have to do this anymore." The other thing, you talk about when you made the decision to quit. One thing I was very intentional about was like, okay, I'm going to buy another property, and I kind of timed it where I'd work. I was going to work and then 3 days later fly to Florida to take possession of a beach house.
Hmm.
And it got a little bit delayed, but that was kind of it. I mean, I wasn't gonna have a job and, oh, can I take a week off to go get this house? I spent a month there, totally different environment. I'm on the beach. I'm physically working because I'm trying to convert this family home into a short-term rental. But so my mind was just there was nothing about the W-2 because I was busy and
Yeah.
doing physical labor and trying to, okay, is this a blue or a gray color? I'm going to go walk on the beach now. I'm certainly not thinking about the past life walking on the beach. That's for
Right.
sure. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, it kind of helped me just make that clean break and just never looked back.
I love it. Going back a little further, this was interesting. Your stepdad and your father, both entrepreneurs, they encouraged you to get a W-2. Why? Was it something they saw in you, or what was that? what
Well,
was it that encouraged that?
let me rephrase that on them encouraging me to get the W-2. I would say I kind of grew up in an entrepreneurial environment. So my parents were kind of working class. I think when my mom got pregnant, she was 19 years old,
Mhm.
and they divorced a few years later, type of thing. So my dad was delivering beer, and my mom was a school teacher. So, and they were separated with two kids going back and forth. So I kind of grew up in a household full of scarcity, right? And we don't have the money, we can't afford it. When I was about maybe 10 years old, my dad, through a family loan, got enough money to start a grocery store, in bad part of town because that's all he could afford. So that kind of kicked him off on his kind of entrepreneurial small business type journey. When my mom remarried, she remarried a doctor who had three clinics. He had started his own insurance company and all these other kind of great things going on. And I would say, I think it's more on, my mother's side to just kind of play it safe. You're going to get a job. You're going to get a W-2 job. You'll be an executive in the W-2 job, but you got to get the W-2 job. Even though here I am in an entrepreneurial thing. And I think that, part of the reason why it took me so long to kind of make this mental break from the W-2 world to entrepreneurial world was because of that conflict. And because my reputation and pretty much every job I've had is I'm very entrepreneurial, but I'm working for somebody and
Yeah.
being entrepreneurial. There's benefits because they know they can throw anything your way and you're going to figure it out and make it a success. The downside is every culture has a corporate culture for how you communicate and how you get things done and how you get approval. Entrepreneurs are by default like doers. There's a problem. Okay, we fixed it. Well, wait a minute. You didn't talk to this person and that person and that person. You just
Oh,
fixed it.
yes,
So yeah. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I
So
do.
so
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other conflict I grew up with because of my again, my parents' conditioning of, they didn't have a lot of money. I mean, in Dallas, Texas, we wouldn't turn on the air conditioner until like mid-June because
Mm.
we just couldn't afford it. And then all of a sudden, my stepfather's a doctor. And we have a house that's like 3 times bigger. There's air conditioning is always on. We're going to a country club. But my mom's like, "Oh, you need school clothes? Let's go to the outlet store." So, so when it came time for me to start investing, I'm like, well, I'm going to do a conservative investment. I'm not going to risk this. And, and I kind of talk with the real estate, kind of when I started buying, you kind of get this adrenaline or this testosterone rush, and you buy one, you got to buy the other. But, it was kind of one of those, like, I came close to buying more just because it was fitting my criteria. But there was that part of me pulling back, like, no, 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 play it safe. What if you lose? You don't want to lose your money. And, of course, everything you bought in 2012 and 2011, 2010 was a winner, but you didn't know that at the time. The world had fallen apart. So, so again, working through those conflicts, still working through them. But I think those were the things that kind of kept me on a path. I mean, I've done very well. I don't
Yeah.
certainly don't regret where I've ended up. But it was something that I do think, we talk about mindset, has kind of, held me back from doing a little bit more. I mean, again, I'm happy with where I am, but you know, it's all mindset for sure.
I see the conditioning from my parents to me, like you described, right? Your mom, maybe a house of scarcity, that you go into this abundant place with your stepdad. So I'm very aware of the actions I take as a result of conditioning from my parents. And you and I went through a change in our lives, right? We go from sort of, safe, quote unquote, safe job mindset, like you said, kind of entrepreneurial, probably with, like, always had that entrepreneurial spirit within, but existed within this confine, to making a big leap later in life to, not
Mhm.
being in that world. So my kids are younger. And the thing I wonder about constantly, because I can't see the future. Like, you're at the finish line. So I ask this father to father for somebody who's done it, right? You've gotten them to where you need to get them. They're out, they're doing their thing. They're functioning adults. But I wonder about the conditioning that I have, that my conditioning, if my parents' conditioning is mine, then mine becomes theirs, right? In that regard, do you think back on, and however you want to couch this, could be one thing you see that you're glad you did, and maybe one thing you wish you could do differently, as far as where your kids are now and how they're a reflection of your conditioning. Does that make sense? I'm just curious. I'm curious, if you're seeing this, like, man, I was always at this entrepreneurial bend, but I didn't allow myself to fully pursue it, didn't buy the way I would have in 2011. Do you see this in your kids? And is it too late to help them through maybe deconditioning, if their way of being more aligns with a different way, if that makes sense? That was a long question.
No, it's a great question, and it's interesting. And as a parent, every child is different, and it's easy to kind of say it kind of flippantly, but my two kids, same parents, same household, similar schools, only a couple of years apart. Their outlook in life could not be more separate. And there's
Crazy.
really no way to explain it. It's just hardwiring, 50% hardwiring, 50% environment type of thing. One of the things that we were intentional about was bringing the kids along, when we were, like, fixing things, sometimes when we were
Mm,
doing inspections. I wish we would have brought them along a little bit more.
mm.
um, I will say this: our daughter, she's in college, she's pre-med, and it was funny. There was a point where she wanted to be a real estate agent or a doctor. She couldn't decide. I said, well, if you're a doctor, you can buy a lot of real estate. So that ended that conversation. But she came to us last year. She goes, well, if I can get into this specialty in medicine, I'm going to buy an office building for my practice and rent out spaces that are practices, kind of not competitors, but very similar, so that people would come for different, like-minded things. I go, man, how old are you again? You thought of that on her own, right? So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Our son, it's kind of funny. I think it's more, well, I'll get to the backstory on our son. He was like a super entrepreneur. I mean, you talk about, we went to Turkey for a family vacation. I want to say he was probably maybe 15 years old when we went. He's going through all these street bazaars, buying like headphones and
Ah,
clothes, and then he gets back to America, puts them on eBay, and like quintuples his money. you know and I'm just
wow.
like, man, that's, and he'd have all these he'd cut people's hair, he would chauffeur them around in his car. I mean, he was just doing all these things to make money. And and now he's kind of gone the opposite way. I'm going to be a data scientist, and I'm just going to work for somebody. Like,
Huh.
that's kind of a weird flip, especially kind of watching me. I'm like, all right, whatever. But I think the one thing I would definitely do a little bit different is when it comes less on, like, how to go out and do business, but getting back, kind of the rich dad, poor dad concept of taking your money, buying income producing assets, and then that income lets you go out and buy nice things. So, and I think that, and it's a tough concept to get, right? Because I need a car, so I'm going to go out and buy a car. Well, Robert Kiyosaki's book, you need a car, go buy an apartment building, and the apartment building will buy you a car, or the renters, I should say, not
Yeah.
you. So I'm like, oh, okay, and that's kind of a concept that, I'm trying to socialize that with the kids. Some get it, one gets it, I think he will get it. He's just kind of wrapped up into well, this is the way the world works type of thing. So
Mm.
we'll see. But I think kind of those kind of concepts you're not going to learn. You're not going to be taught. You're going to have to learn on your own.
That makes sense. No, I appreciate that. And you uttered his name, so I have to ask. So in 2012, Robert Kiyosaki asks you to reinvent his company for the digital age. What did you say?
I said no, because I had no idea what he was talking about.
What the hell? What's the story? First, how Kiyosaki, why you, what does he mean? Like, give us all of that. Like, give us the whole backstory on this.
Yeah, so it's a crazy story. Definitely 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type of things going on here, right? So again, so I just again kind of left the governor's office, kind of doing an entrepreneurial thing. I was actually closing on a 6 unit and a separate triplex, kind of within a month of each other. We're doing the inspection, and the seller was there as part of the inspection. And we're talking. He's like, "Yeah, I'm selling. I've got 150 doors. I'm selling a bunch of them to buy." And I'm looking at him like, "This guy's kind of young." I go, "Like, how old are you?" Right? Totally, as an HR professional, totally inappropriate question,
Yeah.
right? He goes, "I'm 25 years old." I go, "25? How do you get 150 doors?" So he tells me this crazy story that, long story short, he got a speeding ticket. He went to fight it. His parents gave him the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He read it, waiting to fight the speeding ticket, and said, "Nah, screw this. I'm just going to pay the ticket and go buy a house." And literally, that's what he did. So I go, "Man, that's a cool story." I'd never even heard of the book, honestly. So I
Oh, no
bought it
kidding.
on Amazon,
Yeah.
$5 on Amazon.
Yeah.
So flash forward, maybe 6 months later, I'm at a fundraiser and I'm talking to an acquaintance of mine. Go, "Hey, there's Robert Kiyosaki." I go, "Wait a minute. Oh yeah, he wrote that book. I've got a story for him. Hey, Larry, can you introduce me to Robert?" Thinking like he knew him because he pointed him out. He didn't know him, so he introduced him. Of course, so as we just started talking, I kind of told him the story. I thought it was a cool story, and he kind of asked me what I did, and I go, "Yeah, because I, again, just coming out of the technology world, I kind of do technology consulting, more government related type stuff, blah blah blah." And I go, "Robert, what do you do?" So he goes, "Well, I do real estate. So, and I got an educational company." And he goes, "In fact, I'm trying to put my educational company online." I go, "Really?" Like, again, this is 2012, right? So there's no Instagram, there's no such thing as influencers.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't even know if there were videos on real estate investing in 2012 on YouTube. I'm sure there were, but you
Yeah.
know,
No, it's a
to
good
me,
point. Different age. Yeah.
yeah, totally different age. So, I gave him my card, and his, assistant called me to his office. So I went there with my partner, and we probably visited his office probably 3 times. We went back there, and he was talking about taking his rat race game and making it, kind of on the web. And I'm kind of like, "No, that's not, gaming, not kind of what I do." And it's just, and I know he was thinking bigger than that, but what, the concept of the digital age didn't even exist in 2012. It was, still talking to e-commerce and stuff like that. And so we get invited to his annual retreat for his company. And again, I had a consulting client. They were paying me $150 an hour, and I had a project for them. So again, a lot more money than, I don't know what this guy's talking about, right? So I'm going there. My partner goes to the retreat. So he texts me the very first day. He goes, "Hey, I'm sitting at the head table right next to Robert Kiyosaki, and he's talking to me nonstop about this stuff." I go, "Oh, like what's he?" So we're kind of texting a little bit. And then the second day, the last day, my partner Brad calls me up. He goes, "You're not gonna believe what happened." I go, "What happened?" He goes, "Well, at the very end, Robert stands up. Of course, he's sitting right next to me. And he goes, 'Gentlemen, the world is changing. We have to change.'
Hmm.
And Brad and his partner Chad, they're going to map the future for us." I go, "He said that?" Brad goes, "Yeah, what are we supposed to do?" I go, "I have no idea what we're supposed to do." I kind of wish I'd been there, because then you can have a little conversation to kind of figure out what his thing was. But it was just one of those things where like we couldn't quite figure out what he was. He was 5 steps ahead, right? Like
Sure,
we
sure.
might have been 1 or 2 steps into the future. There's a reason he's a billionaire, right? He's 5 steps ahead. And I kind of look back on that, and you know, as a consultant, figure it out, is really what you need to do. So I like to say, I don't have a yacht in the Mediterranean because of that, but I do have a life lesson because of that. So
I was going to ask you if you had the ability to go back. Is it, point in time, it wasn't the right time. Maybe 5 years later, you might have had a different mindset on it, but your son has that opportunity with Grant Cardone. Just, I don't know, pick a modern day version. Are you like, you need to hear my story? This, I know you got this money over here, but the possibility is more valuable than the money. Is that kind of the lesson that you took from it?
your net worth is your net worth.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get offered an amount of money for this, or any, like, was there any structured offer to you, or was it just he uttered that and you were like, no, 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 leave me alone?
We had been talking about a proposal for work. The way we were structured, we were more retainer, based, and we were dealing more with how to kind of sell to government, if that makes sense, versus like product development.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a different flavor, anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think part of it was we couldn't quite figure out what that business relationship would look like, much less what he was trying to do. So
How'd you turn him? Was it just an email, thank you, but no thank you, or was there any conversation?
yeah, I think we just kind of left it alone.
Oh, okay. He moved on.
Yeah.
He's got a
Uh,
reputation of being a bit of a curmudgeon. Did you see any of that? I'm just kind of curious what he's like.
um, you know, Watching his podcast, totally get that.
Yeah.
I would say back then, I mean, he definitely was. He was very open, at least with me. Um, I think like a lot of times you can kind of get a feeling of, and this is going to sound worse than it is, but kind of a superiority complex.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of came across. Kind of a funny story. So I think this is the second meeting we might have had with him. And we're talking. His staff is there. His leaders of his company were there, and this assistant comes in. Mr. Kiyosaki, it's here. He goes, oh, come on, everybody, outside. We go outside, brand new Ferrari, right? And he goes to his staff. He goes, now, gentlemen, one day if you have your own company, you can have something like this, like Chad here. He's going to get something like this, and they'll kind of look at me like we're going to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
like, oh, yeah.
A friend of mine, a pretty significant investor, was coaching with Kiyosaki, like as his
Uh-huh.
direct coach at one point. I wonder what he laid out for that, but that's more the phrase, not curmudgeon, not angry, not like, but just like you said, he had an air. He had an air
Yeah.
about him. And you know what? Hey, he's got the book that has changed that kid's life, your life, my life. I read it, reread it, and it opened things up for me. It's the purple pill, right? So, I mean, forgive him for having an ego, I suppose, but
Well,
wow, great.
he's earned the right to have an ego, I think. So
Yeah. We can't talk about Robert Kiyosaki without talking about Vanilla Ice. And you spent time, that's the best segue in the history of this podcast, by the way. You spent some time on stage with Ice Ice Baby. You want to talk about that? I mean, I could see it. You got kind of the Vanilla Ice hairdo going on, to be honest with you.
yeah, it's about a foot short, but yeah, totally.
Got to watch YouTube for that one. But no, go for it. So how did you get on on stage with Vanilla Ice?
I don't want to raise expectations too high on this, but I will say you mentioned the segue from Kiyosaki. Lesson learned, Kiyosaki, when you get an opportunity, take it, no matter how
There
crazy.
you go.
So it was actually a concert um, with Rob. I like to call him
Oh,
Vanilla
yeah.
Ice.
Yeah. Rob Van
With Rob.
Winkle, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said, come on up on stage. So of course it's all women. Goodness, like 40 something year old women at that. And I'm like, what's this women? Like he's invited everyone. So I said, I'm gonna get up on stage. So I'm like the only guy except for him on stage.
When is this, like
And this
last year? When was this?
probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, this is recent. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty recent. I'm like, WTF, YOLO, right? You live
YOLO.
once,
Yeah.
go do it. And the funniest thing is, of course, all these girls are taking the selfies with them. So I'm like, I'm gonna get a selfie with them. I go like this, and you could see him look at me like, you're a guy. And so he immediately started walking away. And I got this photo of me and like half of his head as he like walks away.
No thanks, man. No thanks. He's saying that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
He's an
So
investor. You should have thrown that out. He's a real estate guy. So there you go. That's your
yeah,
relation
but
with Rob.
he's got a great, actually he used to have a great show. That was a great show.
I got one more I want to ask you about that I read about with you, and that is DJing for a Moscow dance party while traveling alone through communist Europe. I mean, what? Vanilla Ice, Kiyosaki turning him down, and now communist Europe tour, and you end up DJing in Moscow. Interesting place given the state of affairs in the world right now. So please do tell.
Yeah, part of my worldwide tour, I guess, as a DJ. So I did DJ in Dallas once, so there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it was more. So this is I want to say it was my freshman year of college, and back in high school, I told my parents I'm a socialist, right?
Yeah.
So their answer to that was to send me to a socialist country. So I got to do a summer camp, with the cream of the crop, and in Russia, and actually I went to Czechoslovakia too. And it was kind of one of those things, like we went out at night there. The people we were with took us to a nightclub, so we were kind of with the cream of the crop of the Soviet you know economic system or political system, I guess. And it's kind of, everyone's having fun, we're dancing, we're drinking, and it's 11 o'clock. At the end of the day, it's a socialist country, right? It's 11 o'clock. Who cares if people are having fun? I'm done, my shift is over, the DJ just left. And so, I'm with this group of girls, to be honest with you, and they go, Chad, go DJ. And when you got like six girls telling you to go DJ, it's what you do,
You go
right?
do
So
it.
I'm up there and I'm just DJing, and it was a great time. The most requested song was Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. And if you want to see a bunch of drunk Russians who do not have moves like Jagger, go wild dancing, play that song, 25 years ago, whenever it was. But yeah, that was definitely a night to remember, getting to DJ for a Russian nightclub, for sure.
That's
So
incredible. And this is pre-cell phones. You couldn't even get the video of the whole experience and save it in the cloud somewhere. But
yeah, that's
wow.
the worst. Yeah.
I love the women. Yeah, yeah. The women jump on stage, you jump. I see a pattern. Women jump on stage, you jump on stage. Women say DJ, you DJ. So definitely I see who wears the pants in your relationship right now. Wife says you do. I'm guessing.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
pretty much.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
all of us. So GoBundance. You've been in GoBundance for about, what are we in, July? 3-4 months now. So you're a fairly new guy. I still have that new GoBro smell on you. I can sense it from here. Tell me about that. Like why, and then give me kind of a sense of what you're initially getting from being part of the community, if anything.
The why is really just to get with a couple of like-minded entrepreneurs. I'd always wanted something like this. I just never knew where to look. And it was kind of, frankly, a random conversation with
Sorry about that.
a general partner who was trying to raise money for an apartment purchase. And he goes, "Oh, I'm also a member of GoBundance." Blah, 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 blah. And so I was like, I wonder what that is. And I went and looked it up. And I just said, yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for, much more holistic. Certainly, the financial climb, the entrepreneurial climb is like a big part of it. But okay, there's the fitness component, there's the relationship component. There are all these other, components, more holistic, that I was kind of attracted to. I would say, definitely a strong start. I certainly love the local guys, are pretty awesome. I've only had a few meetings with them, but I've had some side lunches, and it's really been great. And kind of, with the Go Pod, and I think the thing I liked about the pod was, when everyone kind of walks through their one sheet, you can kind of see, like, okay, I'm kind of doing what this person's doing in this area, but this person's doing this and getting like these results. Again, whether it's a relationship thing or a financial thing or whatever. So it does kind of open your mind. And I think the biggest thing for me, being in a W-2 world, you know, I think when you're a high income earner, everyone's going to kind of end up with that 1 or 2 million, net worth when all is said and done. Maybe a little bit more, depending where you are in an
Great point.
organization.
That's a great
You
point.
know,
Yeah.
but with here, but of course, I have all this real estate, and I just got kind of lucky. I bought it in Phoenix and Scottsdale, so it's probably worth 2 or 3 times more than if I bought in Dallas, which is also a great market. So I thought I was like, and I never talked about it, so half the people didn't even know what I was doing. But yeah, I kind of like, yeah, I'll be done in a little bit and these people will still be working. And then I get in my GoPod, I go, oh man, these people are like five steps above where I am. This is awesome. I'm learning so much. It's helping me open my mind,
Mm.
because it's very easy to get comfortable and be the smartest person in the room. I mean, we all kind of want to be there because it's comfortable, right? We're not challenged. We're not our failures or defects aren't pointed out.
Yeah.
But when you're with people that have two, three, four times more than you, you're kind of like, oh, it changes your thinking and your dynamic. And I think that's what's really kind of, I'm not fully where I want to be with GoBundance, but it's definitely kind of accelerated me for sure and
No,
opened
that
my
makes sense.
eyes.
I remember my pod still, we've been together, what, 3.5 years, as long as I've been in GoBundance. And the first 6 months were weird because you're meeting these guys like on Zoom, right? Like you get an
Yeah.
hour and then you're out, an hour, then you're out. Whereas to your point, when I joined, we didn't have a local chapter. I always joke in Michigan, it was me and Brent. We go to Starbucks. That was it. Now there's 25 guys in Detroit Metro, let alone the other side of the state. But the local chapter is, you're right. We spend 2-3 hours together. I went on a date night with my wife and a friend, GoBundance guy and his wife, last night. So it's easier to connect. The thing that changed for me, and I would say to you and anybody listening, and I say this to folks that graduate, emerge, go to Ascend and get a pod there, or join GoBundance, like, if you can get together in person and spend time, like whether it's, hey, we're all going to this event, summer event, winter event, but one of those days, go out with them. Like, just get away from the
Mhm.
event, go out to dinner and just bond as guys, as people, as, if it's on the women's side, bond as ladies or as women. That changed the entire dynamic of our pod. Like, two of the guys actually just got back from a 2-week sailing trip around Greece with their wives, two of the guys in my pod.
Oh,
It's just, it
okay.
opened up like the connection. Like, now Zoom was sort of checking back in from the people that we are, spending 3 days together and getting deep on topics. And it was just, yeah, it was a different dynamic. But the pod takes some time to warm up. The local chapter, though, if I join now, man, I love the stuff we do locally, because you're right, you get to press the flesh and be around them. So
Mhm.
that's interesting. So yeah, that's, if you can get your pod to an event or just go somewhere together. My pod went to Austin just to go, like, this past summer, last summer, I guess. Oh God, that was a year ago already. And then we were in
Yeah.
Park City together. It's crazy, but that helps, just getting around the guys like in person to make it less awkward.
Yeah.
Because it is weird. It's just Zoom, like an hour in, hour, and you text, but it's not the same as knowing the person, like, having physically been there with them. So
Yeah.
interesting. On the, oh, and I need to plug this, GoBundance.com, for anybody interested. You can apply at any level. Just drop your information in there and we'll make sure it gets filtered to the right organization. You're about February, right? February, March, April, May, June, July, 5-6 months out of the job at this point. And you mentioned right away you had that rehab, or converting from a home to an STR, a short-term rental. So that took up your mind space and your time and everything. Anything surprising about your time since, like, I didn't expect this since your W-2 exit? Is there anything in the time that you've been gone that's been surprising for you, never expected, or didn't quite see it going the way it did?
Um, I don't think I don't think things have gone in any wrong direction. I mean, if anything else, the minute I kind of shifted my focus when I was still at my W two job, I shifted my focus towards this, no move. I've probably added 30% to my, again, passive income or side hustle income. It's my primary income now, which I probably wouldn't have done had I still been in the W-2. So I think I've definitely accelerated it. I think the one thing that I've always been dealing with, because I knew this was going to happen, I'm naturally just kind of a high anxiety person, and kind of having to deal with that negative thought, your subconscious saying, you got to go back. This
Yeah.
isn't, I mean, every morning, it's a struggle, and every morning you have to kind of overcome it and, control that subconscious. And, and I think it, and I was very intentional, because, coming out of the W-2, like I knew this was going to be an issue, right? I knew this was going to be an issue. And, I started, okay, so how am I going to overcome it? What are the things I'm going to do to grab control and keep making the progress? And so I kind of broke it out into three things, and one is, just reminding myself daily. It's on my whiteboard. It's on, I think, the back of my computer screen. What's my why? What's my goal? Like, why am I doing this? Right. I also created SMART goals for the year. and I kind of bucketed them. SMART goals for, specific, measurable, actionable, time bound. These are goals you're going to accomplish. Cash flow, wealth building, relationships. And I tell myself, if I just do like 3 of the 5 goals in each of those buckets, all right, I know I'm making progress. That 3-year goal I have, I'm getting there. I just got to do 3 of them. I keep myself focused. And you measure the progress. Like, did I accomplish this? What is the income it's generating? What's it doing to my relationship? And then the third thing is really that daily routine. And it's a combination of affirmations, of prayer, making sure I do my workout. I put together a journal. I keep a task list at tactical level, a task list of what I'm going to do today. So, just kind of making sure that I've got that routine. I'm taking ownership of my subconscious before it becomes an issue, to just kind of, make sure, look, it's working out. I've already accomplished like 5 things that I wanted to do on my SMART goals. I'm just now halfway through the calendar year, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of like those positive reinforces that, yeah, it's going well. In the back of my, and then I'll tell my negative thought, first of all, I'll tell them, screw off negative thoughts. But you know what? If you're right, negative thoughts, well, give me another 6 months. After a year, we'll figure out who's right and who's wrong. But go away. I'm going to do this for now.
Oh man, that's amazing. I love that. Reminding yourself of your why, SMART goals, and tracking them, and then the daily routine, that whatever morning routine, miracle morning, whatever it is for you, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Grounding yourself in those. I still, do you still get the terrifying wake up in the middle of the night, can't go back to sleep? Oh my God, it's not going to work out. What am I doing? Does that happen or no?
Um,
Happens to
it's
me.
happened. It's probably happened once or twice.
Yeah.
But again, kind of the same thing. I will, the way I've learned to handle it. This happened all the time when I was in the W-2 world, right? Oh, this project's failing. Oh, my boss hates me, whatever. So-and-so's going to quit, whatever. But yeah, again, I have to admit, there are 2 things I do. One, I'll pull out my SMART goals. I'll pull out my quarterly tracking. I have a quarterly tracking mechanism I use. Look at that. The second thing I do is I pour myself a single, bourbon, and 30 minutes later,
You're
I'm
out.
good. I wake up
Gotcha.
at 6 a.m. refreshed. It's all good.
I use the Calm app and I put on some sleep sounds. That helps me. That helps me fall back
Yeah.
asleep. The concept, though, to me became clear. It's like there are, in the last year and a half, I guess, since I left my job, there have been like 40 terrifying days, just for whatever reason, not even real, but just, if I added it up, like say there's 40 terrifying days in that year. The rest of the year, for the most part, a year plus, has been exciting, right? It's like on purpose. I feel alive every day that I do what I do. But there's terrifying moments. I'll aggregate them to 40 days. The flip is, with my job, there was raise day, equity vesting day, and bonus day. Those are 4, and then there were a few weeks vacation, right? And then paychecks, 26 paychecks a year, right? So when I add up like those things, there was like 40 really good days, and the rest of the year sucked. So I'll take the 40 terrifying days with a good year versus I'm going to work all year for 40 good days, right? If that makes any sense. And they weren't even like that good. So
yeah, it makes total, yeah. And again, that's a good point. I mean, we talk about, trading time for money. And part of the reason why, like, do I want to get more than my 3-year goal, is because when I say that, I really want the time and I'm willing to sacrifice whatever of the money. But I look at how, I mean, everyone talks about how relaxed I am, how happy I am, how nice I am to be around. I'm like, I'm nice to be around now. Okay. It kind of makes you think like, "Ew, boy, I guess I was a little intense," I think is what
it
they were
permeates your
saying.
whole life. When you're in a
Yeah.
place or a job, whatever, that you're not happy, a relationship, people think, oh, it's the 40 hours of work or 50, or I work 70. No, it's however many hours there are in a week. Your sleep is affected, your attitude, your mood is affected. Sundays, that was a big change for me. Leaving my job, I was amazed at how different Sundays felt. Sundays were always a countdown. Like, I got to start the day. But, at the end of the day, I got to get to bed. And next day, let me log on Sunday night to get ahead of Monday. And now it's like Monday, baby, let's go. Like, so it's funny that, to your point, it permeates your entire life. I think that's what you were getting at, right?
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Sunday, like, I don't even know what day of the week it is. I
I
mean,
know.
half the time, I mean, I have a calendar, so I know I got this meeting, but like, I think today's Thursday. because I'm, we're doing a little bit of a vacation, I think. Yeah, and I just like I don't even know, because every day is kind of a similar routine. There might be some, if I have meeting with friends, it might be on a Saturday because that's their day off. But my work, what I can do on a Monday can be done on a Friday, which can be done on a Saturday. I mean, it'll get done when I make time for
Yeah. I love it, man. Incredible. Wow. This was a lot of fun. I mean,
it.
we packed in celebrity names, the whole nine. This is great. But let's wrap on the GoBundance card game. And here's the question: 9 of spades. What's the most you have spent on a gift for someone?
Ouch. Does my wife count?
Anybody, someone.
Oh,
Does your
I
wife count?
spent,
Think about that question. Just I hope your wife never hears this. Does my
well,
wife count?
she's gonna get the most, right? She's gonna get the mostest,
Well, the
so
one
like,
thing, yeah, it can't be the ring. Can't be the ring
oh, no, no,
or
no.
yeah.
So actually for yeah, I will say probably $15,000, which was a mixture of anniversary plus birthday surprise gift when I took her to Tahiti.
Oh, nice. How long ago?
It was right before COVID. We went in February of 2020.
Oh, right before COVID. You were like the last
Yeah.
flight out. Holy cow.
Pretty much, yeah. Coming back into LAX at the end of February was like, this is kind of creepy. And it's funny, you fly out there. We were kind of making a joke, like, because people were talking about it, in February, and we're like, well, if everything gets locked down, we'll be in Tahiti. That's a great place to be locked down. Ha ha ha. Not thinking like that would actually happen, right?
Right,
So,
right. Yeah.
but I do go back. That would be an awesome place. My wife's a French speaker, so it was a
Oh,
great
nice.
a great opportunity for her to kind of speak with the people there. So it was
And it's an
awesome.
experience versus an item. I love that. So that's money to me, very, very well spent. So great stuff, man. Chad, how can people learn more about you, follow you, wherever you want to lead them to, so they can get to know you a bit more?
Yeah, I honestly, the simplest thing is, Facebook, Chad Kirkpatrick on Facebook. I do have a recently started, somewhat growing Instagram account. Chad Investor of Leisure
Chad
is my
Investor
handle.
Leisure. I like that.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I want to invest in time and leisure. So those are the best ways. I would say I have a YouTube channel, but I got like 3 videos on there. So various projects I've worked on.
You ever pump that, they can find it through Instagram, right? So you can add a link on your Instagram if ever you decide to go crazy on YouTube. So good stuff, man. This was fun. I appreciate you jumping on. It's always good to get to know you. Am I going to see you at an event soon? Are you going to Detroit or Dallas or any plans for them?
Yeah, I'm thinking of going to Dallas. You'll probably see me there. Is most likely.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, man. Well, I will let you go. I appreciate you being on, and yeah, maybe see you in Dallas.
Yeah, for sure.